Hello, Italian Magic here, and today I'm going to be doing an M15 Crack-A-Pack and draft pick analysis video. Before I get started with that, a few quick things. Pretty soon I will be posting a deck tech video on an M15 sealed deck that I played at a side tournament at Grand Prix Boston Worcester. I did very well in that side tournament. I went 4-0, and in doing so, I won this playmat that you see in front of you. So this isn't the usual playmat that I have on my videos, but I thought it would be really cool to show you guys one of the prizes that I won. I also won this pack that I'm about to open. And furthermore, I got another playmat that I got in a silent auction to benefit someone who has been injured and requires funds for their recovery. Her name is Mariah. It's something that people in the Magic community might already know about, but I will be doing my deck tech for the sealed deck on that playmat. So if you want to check back to see a really cool playmat with art by RK Post, then that video will be up soon, and I hope you check it out. Without further ado, let's open this M15 core set pack that I have here, and let's look at the contents and talk a little bit about what we would do if we were opening this as our pick, our first pack of a draft, and we were about to take our first pick out of our first pack. So we're starting off with Welkin Turn, Crowd's Favor, Midnight Guard, Charging Rhino, Typhoid Rats, Mind Sculpt, Torch Fiend, Bronze Sable, Meditation Puzzle, Statute of Denial. Now we're on to the uncommons. Wall of Mulch, Roaring Primodox, Profane Memento, and our rare here is a Necromancer's Stockpile. What a pile. At least for limited. And just land and token here. So Necromancer's Stockpile is definitely an interesting card, but not a card that I would first pick, and it's sort of, I think, more meant for constructed formats. For those of you that don't know what it does, it's an enchantment for 1 and a black, and then you can pay 1 and a black and discard a creature card to draw a card. If the discarded card was a zombie card, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield tapped. Definitely a card that could see play in constructed, at the very least in a casual sense, but not a card that I would first pick. There aren't many zombies in M15, and beyond that, paying mana and discarding a creature card to draw an unknown card is just, it's dirtily, and it's not proactive. It's not something that I want to be doing. It's not like you're drawing an extra card because you are discarding a card. I mean, if you're discarding a card, getting a creature and drawing a card, that's great, but like I said, you might end up with 1-2 zombies in your deck, maybe. So, not picking that. Profane Memento is bad. So let's just take out the cards that we wouldn't pick. I wouldn't pick Necromancer's Stockpile. I wouldn't take Meditation Puzzle or Profane Memento or Statute of Denial. I wouldn't first pick a Crowd's Favor. I wouldn't first pick a Mind Sculpt. I don't think I would first pick a Wall of Mulch, at least not with these other options available to us. I don't think I would first pick a Bronze Sable. Probably wouldn't first pick a Torch Fiend. So now we're left with a smaller group here. 1 uncommon and 4 commons. I like Charging Rhino, but if I'm going to pick a green creature, I would probably pick the Primodox here, because although it's at the beginning of your upkeep, return a creature you control to its owner's hand, can be a significant drawback with a creature like Shaman of Spring or Frost Lynx, or, I mean, any creature with a comes into play ability. It can create some really nice synergy. I would definitely find picking one up, since it's an uncommon, early worth it if I didn't see things that synergize with it, and I just kind of move out of that plan, then that's fine. I usually am not married to my first pick in a draft, even though I keep it in mind on my future picks. I do like Midnight Guard a lot here, and it's interesting to note that we didn't really have any other. I mean, Meditation Puzzle is the only other white card in the pack, and it's not. It's a very low pick. It's a pick that'll probably be one of the last few cards out of the pack. So, knowing that we're not passing anything good in white, is a potential case for picking Midnight Guard. I like it in this format a lot more than I probably would have if I'd been playing during Innistrad Block when it was first released because of Convoke, because the green-white Convoke strategy is very solid, as you will see when I provide you with my M15 sealed deck tech in the next video on the channel, spoiler alert. But that being said, getting back to Midnight Guard, if you use it to convoke out another creature, it then untaps when that creature comes into play because it comes into play after you use it for the convoke cost. So that makes it a card that can work beautifully in that type of strategy. I don't think I would pick the Typhoid Rats first. 1/1 Death Touchers are certainly going to trade up all day, and they're never completely, a dead draw. Most limited decks have a lot of creatures. If you draw one late game, it can almost act as a deterrent, so that your opponent will have trouble profitably attacking, or even a removal spell if they attack into it. It obviously though is better in a format like Theros Block, where there are these big, hard to deal with threats that you need to deal with if you want to win. This format is not quite as battle cruisery. I mean, it's clearly, it doesn't have bestow, it doesn't have heroic. Those are mechanics that reward that style of build up a large threat play. So, and in that format, the Death Touch creatures like Sedge Scorpion and Freak Chosen were very good, or I guess are very good for those of you that are still drafting Theros Block out there. So I think really I'm left with these three cards, and I haven't talked about Welkin Turn yet. But the reason that I put it here is some very good players that I know consider it the best blue common in the set. Some other people consider Frost Lynx the best blue common in the set. I would consider this definitely one of the top two. I think you could make an argument for either one as the top common in the set. But I think they both go into kind of an aggressive tempo-based strategy. But the thing is, Welkin Turn really can go into any blue deck, even a defensive one, because it's a 2/1 flyer that, if you play it on turn 2, is just going to start pecking away at your opponent's life total. It puts them on a clock, and it's the type of card that has very little downside. The drawback, it can only block creatures with flying, is really not usually going to be too relevant, as it's a creature that you want to turn sideways most of the time. So I think if I were forced with this decision, because I could see an argument for any one of these three cards based on the criteria that I just described, I would probably, I think I would take the Welkin Turn. Well, not sure. I do think green-white is a great color combination in this format, but I think that either of those colors pair nicely with other colors. Like white can pair nicely with blue or red. Green can pair nicely with red or black or blue. Like, you can kind of go in a lot of different directions with green X or white X in this format. From the limited amount of play that I've been able to achieve so far in M15 draft. I haven't drafted M15 too much yet, but I plan on drafting it a lot more before Khans of Tarkir comes out. So I think I'm going to go with the Welkin Turn first, simply because it doesn't require any synergy to be good. It's going to give me a strategy to draft around, a blue-based aggressive tempo strategy, and it's a card that doesn't bind me into any particular strategy that I'm married to going forward in the draft. That being said, like I said, Roaring Primadox gets very good when you have creatures with Enters the Battlefield abilities, and Midnight Guard gets very good when you have Convoke cards in your deck. So I think because Roaring Primadox probably works better with a wider variety of cards and color combinations in the set, I'd probably go like this and pick Welkin Turn. If Welkin Turn were gone, then I would pick the Primadox, and if this were the third pick in the draft and those cards were already gone, I would probably pick the Midnight Guard. So actually, I have a little bonus round for you guys. I have a second pack of M15, and we're going to do another quick draft analysis with that pack. So I'll be back in a moment, and we'll get going on draft analysis number 2. All right, guys, I'm back. I've already cracked the wrapper on this pack, as you can see. So let's open her up and do another pack 1, pick 1 draft pick analysis. So in this pack, we have Fugitive Wizard, Foundry Street Denizen, Solemn Offering, Titanic Growth, Carrion Crow, Encrust, Goblin Rough Rider, Pillar of Light, Ornithopter, Negate, Wall of Mulch, Into the Void, Wall of Frost, and our rare is Grind Clock, so another rare, and then a Spirit Token in a Forest. Another rare that I would not first pick. It is a clock, a Grind Clock, but the name is very not subtle. It puts your opponent on a clock, and it grinds them out. There you go. So, that being said, though, it is a very slow card for a very specific control deck. It's a win condition for a deck that's very defensive and has cards like Wall of Frost in it. But being the first pick in a draft, I don't know where the next few picks are going to go, and I don't necessarily want to pick a pretty mediocre to bad card that fits in a specific type of deck only, when there are just sort of more broadly powerful and versatile cards that leave me more open. Not open color-wise, this is an artifact, but open in terms of the type of strategy, the type of deck archetype or strategic archetype that I look to achieve. After a few more picks, I start to get a better picture of what strategic archetype my deck wants to build towards. And furthermore, that's something that I sometimes don't always fully work out, or it's not always fully apparent until maybe even the second pack. In rare cases, maybe even the third, but those are very corner cases. I mean, that's a draft that's not really going well if you're not sure what your deck wants to do that deep into the draft. But if we take Grind Clock out of the equation, we have this. And let's just start taking some cards out of the equation that I'm not going to first pick. I'm not going to first pick a 1/1 for 1 with no rules text. In a very heavily read, aggressive deck, I like Foundry Street Denizen, but that's too specific a deck archetype to assume that we're going to build. To first pick him, I'm going to take this out as it's a sideboard card in this format. I'm going to take this out as I don't want to first pick a combat trick that isn't... I mean, I don't know if I'd even first pick a combat trick that's pretty good, but depends on the format, depends on a variety of factors, but I'm certainly not going to pick a common one that's... It's not bad. Titanic Growth is playable, and there's spots where it's going to really help you out, but it's not something that I'm going to first pick. Not going to first pick Ornithopter. Not going to first pick Negate. Not going to first pick Goblin Rough Rider. I'm not going to first pick Wall of Mulch. And although I do like Pillar of Light, and it can get you out of some really tough spots against something like a Scuttling Doom Engine or a Soul of New Phyrexia, or any of the souls, really. We're talking about rares and mythics right now. There are a few creatures at uncommon with toughness 4 or greater, like Ancient Silverback, that like he can regenerate, so it's great to be able to exile him. There are certainly targets for Pillar of Light. But I don't know if I want to take that first, especially when it's often just going to be a dead card in our hand. This format seems like it's at least a common and uncommon, filled with primarily creatures that have a toughness below 4. And even though there are some walls like Wall of Mulch that have a toughness of 4, again, that isn't necessarily a card that scares me to the point where I'm going to first pick Pillar of Light as a hedge against it. So now we're left with 3 blue cards and a black card. So, as I said in the last pack with Welkin Turn, a flyer with 2 power that you can play early in the game, this one a turn later than Welkin Turn, But a flyer with 2 power that you can play early in the game can often just kind of peck away at your opponent's life total and deal enough damage over the course of the game to be quite valuable. And those type of cards can't be overlooked. I mean, they're not exciting, but they often get the job done. That being said, these blue cards are really, they're all pretty good, but one thing is I'm not seeing any other black card in this pack. There's not a single other black card. So being able to cut off black for the person on our left and being able to start cutting off black immediately and sending a strong signal that way is a consideration and something that would cause me to consider carrying Crow. I think that out of these blue cards, I like Wall of Frost a lot, but certainly it puts me into a blue-based, or at least, I like blue-black as a defensive color combination in this format, but Wall of Frost is most certainly a card that you only really want in a defensive deck, though it can be a good sideboard card in a more mid-range or aggressive blue-based deck against a really hyper-aggressive, say, red-based deck. But that being said, I like Into the Void a lot, only in a tempo-based aggressive deck because it's kind of like Sudden Storm was in Born of the Gods. Sudden Storm had the added utility of being able to tap down creatures that had been built up with Bestow, or had become monstrous, or had been built up due to heroic triggers. This card is a sorcery. It can allow you to get through for perhaps the final points of damage in a racing situation, or in a situation where you have a lot of small creatures that you want to sneak through, perhaps on turn 4 or 5 once you've played out like a 1, 2, and 3 drop. But it seems it's powerful, but being a sorcery hurts it, and being a card that often isn't going to necessarily give you enough advantage to save you in a game that you're already very far behind in. I would not consider this necessarily over these two. I think, like I said, these kind of fit into something more specific. They are both uncommons, so you'll see less of them throughout the draft potentially, but I think that really what we're looking at is Encrust and Carrying Crow. Now, of course, if we take Encrust, we are going to pass these 2 blue cards, though I don't think in this instance we care about that too much, seeing as that Encrust kind of works well in really any deck with blue. It doesn't have to be in a specific archetype to do its job. It sort of can act as a pacifism, do a good impression of pacifism effect, though it obviously is more reliant on certain circumstances occurring because it doesn't tap the creature that you target. You enchant an artifact or creature, and it doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. It can't activate abilities, of course. This is very good if you put it on, say, a soul, because then it can't activate its activated ability. But I think the ability to take a creature that has an evasive keyword and will cut our person to the left off immediately from a color. In pack 2, we can, go further down that road if we see a good black card. I think I'm tempted to take the Crow first. I'm going to take Encrust if the Crow's gone. Although I should note that in this format, there are a lot of bounce effects. There's Into the Void. There's is it Vapor Snag or Vapor Snare? There's Vapor. It's a 1 mana common. There's Peel from Reality. Like, blue does have a lot of that kind of effect. There definitely are some matchups where Encrust wouldn't be as good, and in those matchups, I would not hesitate to sideboard it out. It is important to note that it enchants an artifact as well, like an artifact or a creature, and since there are a decent amount of artifacts in this set, that can have more relevance than it might otherwise in a set that has less of an emphasis on artifacts. But I think I would go Crow first, Encrust second, and one of these two cards as my third pick, depending on what I had already picked up during the first two picks in the draft. Now, somebody in the comments of one of my videos asked if I would talk a little bit about what I think might wheel out of this pack or out of future packs that I analyze in this way. So let me take a quick look at the other cards, and I will be right back to give you that analysis. Okay, so I think that the rest of this pack is pretty weak, and that a lot of the cards in this pack depend on a drafter being interested in or already leaning towards a certain type of deck or a certain archetype to gain points in their evaluation process. And so I think the next four picks are going to be some combination in some order of Pillar of Light, Wall of Mulch, Goblin Rough Rider, and either Foundry Street Denizen or Titanic Growth. Let's say right now it's Titanic Growth, because I think these are the cards that are going to wheel. Foundry Street Denizen, like I said, fits in a very specific build. Negate is something that I'd be happy to main deck one of, but any other copies usually end up in my sideboard. Ornithopter works pretty well in a heavily artifact-based deck with things like Shrapnel Blast, but it's something that I wouldn't want to pick up unless I'm already certain that I can make use of that strategy. It costs 0, but it takes up a spot in your deck, and that means it takes up a percentage of your draws, and if you are playing this without anything to really synergize with it, then you're just kind of playing it as an expendable blocker as opposed to something that could have more powerfully impacted the game state. Like I said before, Solemn Offering is often a sideboard card in a format like this, though, like I said, there are a variety of powerful artifacts in this format. That gives it a little bit more reach because it can destroy an artifact or enchantment, but usually this starts out in my sideboard. And a 1/1 for one that does nothing else. There are a lot of X1s running around in this format. I could see bringing this out of the sideboard in matchups with a lot of aggressive X1s, but not something that I'd usually main deck. And then, like I said, Grind Clock fits into a very, very specific defensive strategy. So this is what I think would wheel, and I'm kind of fine with that, because if we take this Carrion Crow, we obviously don't really know what our second color is going to be. And so by the time this pack wheels, if we look like we're going to be a more aggressive red-black deck, we could take Foundry Street Denizen. If we look like we're going to be a black-blue control deck, we could take Negate. If we look like we're going to be a more grindy black-white attrition deck, we could take Solemn Offering. But I don't think anything super exciting is going to wheel from this pack, so I wouldn't necessarily make my first pick in this pack based on any expectation of a really helpful or, you know, powerful card wheeling. So I hoped that I hope that this video gives you guys out there some information that will help you in future M15 drafts. I'll be doing more limited M15 videos based on sealed decks that I build, or drafts that I do, or you know, more of this style video where I take some of my prize packs or packs that I acquire and open them up on camera and analyze them a little bit. And I really hope that this will give you some strategic information. I know these videos that I do of this nature tend to be a little longer than some videos on YouTube. I do this because I like to talk about strategic implications, the implications of a pick, the implications of what a pick means in terms of the viable archetypes that are, you know, the viable archetypes that are powerful in the format. So those are things that I hope will draw like-minded viewers to my channel. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you for my M15 sealed deck tech video in the near future. As always, this is Metallian Magic, signing out.